Hi, my name is Evelien Pabruwe, and I'm the alopecia coach. I lost my hair to alopecia, and I know exactly how isolating, confusing, and heavy that all can feel. And on this podcast, I help women with hair loss rebuild their confidence, feel beautiful again, and live fully, with or without hair. So let's get into it. Today I'm talking with Wren, a person that I've admired for a long time, and I really enjoyed our conversation. And I hope you will too. Ladies and gentlemen, I am very happy at this time because we have the privilege to talk with a very amazing entrepreneurial lady in the alopecia community, and her name is Wren. If you follow her, or even if you are in the alopecia community, you must have seen her. She's an incredible makeup artist. She is the founder with her husband, Wade Holland, of Renegade Media. She's an absolutely incredible alopecia advocate, and she worked at the Emmys and the New York Fashion Week. And like I said, if you're in the alopecia space, you must have seen her incredible makeup creations. So I'm super, super happy to have you on the show, Abby.
Oh, Evelyn, thank you so much for having me. It's honestly an honor to be here. And, I spoke about it before, but I'm always very excited to talk about alopecia and kind of share the ups and downs and the realness of my journey because it's been such a wild ride since 2006 when I lost my hair. So,
And I
yeah.
always love it when guests say that. Like, I'm so excited to talk about alopecia because when I relate to that, I'm like, well, I wasn't at all.
Mhm.
I didn't want to talk about it at all when it just started with me. So,
Yeah,
uh,
totally.
yeah, so things changed, huh, over the years.
Things certainly did change, and I also know that feeling of not wanting to share about it and kind of keeping it as a big secret that you don't want anyone to know about you. I'll always remember that feeling, and I'll never forget it. But I will say that, like with time, for me, it's been, I think this is my 20th year anniversary of losing my
Yay.
hair, which is crazy. Yeah, it's been 20 years. That makes me feel so old, but.
Right.
Um, yeah, it was 2006 when my hair started falling out. And so, at that time I was feeling very insecure about my identity, about my looks. I was just entering high school, so it
Right.
was the beginning of my, coming into teenage adulthood time. So I was entering high school and just trying to get a grasp on who I was as a person, and my whole visual identity changed when I lost my hair. So, that at that time I didn't want anyone to know. All I wanted to do was fit in. But looking
Right.
back on it 20 years later, my perspective has completely changed. I can't imagine, changing my alopecia or having all my hair grow back. Like I'm so me with my bald head, and I can't imagine it any other way. And so, yeah, I get excited. I do get excited always speaking about it because for me, it has changed my life in a very profound and I would say positive way. And I think a lot of people going through it in the trenches or going through it for the first time right now probably
Mhm.
don't feel that way. But I like speaking about it because I think it's important to know that this can change your life for the better. There's so many lessons we've learned, there's so many perspectives we've gained, and self-love that we've built over the years that allow us to see the beauty in it, and that just takes time.
I love that. Yeah, and I think you do that in such a gracious and inspiring way because you're not shy, I feel like, talking about how, it wasn't fun, obviously, in the beginning and that it was very rough and the ups and the downs you had. And I'm really excited to get into that with you because so you lost your hair in 2006. Like you said, you were going into high school. So
Yeah.
in the US, that's around 12-ish.
A little older, I was 15.
Oh,
Yeah, I
50.
was
Yeah, okay.
15.
Yeah.
15 turning 16. So, that at that time in a young woman's life, you're really just trying to fit in. You're trying to,
You want to
build
look like, yeah.
you're trying to build friendships. Maybe you have a boyfriend, maybe you don't yet, but you want one. You're building your self-identity and how you know yourself. And yeah, so it felt like my world flipped upside down when I lost my hair because the way I saw myself was visually with hair. I had this long red hair. My nickname in soccer was a Big Red. That's what everyone called
Right.
me. So,
Uh,
I had this identity of who I was and what I looked like,
yeah.
and that just changed in a matter of weeks. So
Yeah.
I found my alopecia by washing my hair in the shower, and I noticed a whole handful came out in the shower. And it shocked me. I was like, what is this? What's happening? And I showed my mom right away, and she's a nurse. And so she said, huh, that's not normal. We should look into this. And maybe it's thyroid, maybe it's all these different things. And of course, I had some tests done, I had some blood samples done, and I was eventually diagnosed with alopecia. And truly, it was maybe 3 or 4 weeks later, and almost all my hair was gone. So it
Yeah.
was really fast, and it moved from alopecia areata, the bald patches, to totalis, and then eventually to universalis. So I lost my eyelashes, my arm hair, everything. And so that progression was quick. It was so fast.
Yeah. How did you deal with that at that age? Or did you deal with it? Like how does that work for a girl that's 15, 16?
Yeah, it's such a good question. I don't know really how I dealt with it. I think I've processed a lot over the years,
Yeah.
but while it was happening to me, I kind of blocked it out. I kind of just protected myself. I think
Mm.
our brain has an amazing way of doing that, and you just kind of keep going. For me, I was very fortunate. I had an amazing, loving family who like supported me to the ends of the earth. They did
Yeah.
anything to help me, anything that they could. I know a lot of times families feel pretty helpless because they can't fix it, they can't just take it away. And I'm sure as a mom or a mother, my mom just wanted to fix it. She just wanted to make it better.
Yeah.
And she couldn't. I think that's the hardest thing about alopecia is that there's not necessarily a path forward, and there's not like an answer or a cure or something to do that just fixes it. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I had support. I had a lot of good friends in my life that, wore bandanas with me because I covered my head at first when I was still losing my hair. And my soccer team all wore purple bandanas to support me because that was our school color. And so I felt like I was really fortunate to live in a small community where people cared and people were kind. I didn't experience too much bullying, some strange comments in the hallways, of course, and overhearing people be curious and wonder what was happening. But for the most part, my friends stood beside me and supported me, and I had a relatively easy time in school because of that support system, I would say. And yeah, I think looking back so many years later, I didn't really deal with it at the time because at 15, you don't really know how to deal with it. You kind of just move forward.
Brain. Yeah,
Yeah,
your brain isn't even fully developed. So
no.
yeah.
You're just moving through it. And I think that was my focus is like, let's get through this. And then by the end of high school, my hair had started actually growing back. So my hope was, okay, my hair's going to grow back and this is going to be something that happened and it's going to be in my past forever and I'm going to have a full head of hair.
Yeah.
And
The
that
end.
actually, yeah, exactly. And that actually happened to me for several years. So from, I would say 2007 to 2018. My hair slowly kind of regrew and then
Yeah.
fell out again and regrew. I always had bald patches, so it never completely, totally regrew, but I always had patches along the back side of my head, like the back side of my neck. That's where my hair never really grew in. I always had like a baseball size bald patch and then scattered throughout my hair. Like it would grow back and fall out and grow back and fall out, like typical alopecia areata.
Yeah.
And so I used hair extensions to kind of clip over those. And I experimented with dyeing them pink and then have a strand of blonde. And so the mismatchedness kind of became
Yeah.
my look.
Okay.
And and so that's kind of how I dealt with it during that time. It just kind of was a part of me, but I would never put my hair up in a ponytail because then people would see, it
Right.
was my little secret that I kind of lived with.
Mm. I feel
Mhm.
that in my stomach because that must have been really hard. And I recognize that from my own experience. And I know that many women listening to this will recognize that as well. And that's a
Yeah.
heavy burden to carry.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. And you don't, it's not so clear or evident necessarily that it is a burden. It's just something that you kind of cope with and you
Yeah.
deal with the best that you can. And I would say that for me, that phase of that in between where you have regrowth, but it's also falling out, that to me is by far the hardest phase because it just is with you and there's no like plan of action. I tried the steroid shots. I had samples taken from my scalp. I had like we really tried everything that was available at the time and nothing helped to regrow my hair in those patches. So I kind of crossed that bridge of acceptance at that point. I was like, you know what? I think this is just part of my journey and
Yeah.
it's going to be a part of me. Alopecia is a part of my experience and it's something I'm carrying with me. And yeah, it does feel heavy. I had to tell boyfriends, like, hey, I wear these hair extensions, so they actually come out. Just so you know, I'm going to take them out at nighttime, just so you know. And I just started doing that. I just started being honest and transparent about what I was dealing with. If I went to a hairdresser, I said, "Hi, I have alopecia. This is what I'm working with, just so you know."
Yeah.
And the more I kind of spoke about it and kind of told people about it, the more it was like, okay, this is a part of me and I don't need to be ashamed of it. I don't need to be as shy about it. Yeah, and that actually happened when I met my husband. He was so nonchalant about it. He was like, "Oh, cool. That's interesting. Like, how did that happen?" And he was so curious about the experience. I met Wade in 2017, and he's obviously now my husband, but at the time when we met, like I was so shy and still I still held on to a little shame regarding my alopecia and the bald patches specifically. And he thought they were so cool. He was like, "This is so unique. This is so like original. I've never met anyone that has just these spots around their head like a leopard. Like how cool." And he kind of celebrated them like before I did. And that was a huge, huge change in my confidence towards alopecia in general.
I can imagine. That is such an awesome way to respond. Future
Yeah.
husband and boyfriends, pay attention, and girlfriend,
Listen.
and whoever's
Yeah.
listening.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
100%.
And you guys have a beautiful dating story as well. I know
Oh,
it's weird because you don't know me and I don't know you, but I know that through Instagram, and I think it's very cute. So he's
oh,
great.
thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the luckiest girl on the planet. He truly is the best. And he just believed in me and I think my ability to find confidence before I even was there. He saw that within me in the future when we met. Like, he knew that that was going to be a part of my story even when I didn't know
And
it.
it sounds like he gave you the space and your own time to get there and to move through it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. He did. And he also, I mean, one thing about relationships that I think people don't talk about enough is the importance and the significance of being pushed a little bit. I
Mm.
think, he did give me my own time and he did support me and let me grow on my own, but he also challenged me. And that's something in relationships that I don't hear as much about is like the challenge. He asked me to grow and he kind of pushed me to grow because he knew the power that I had within myself, even though I was quieting it on my own. I didn't really see it yet, but
Yeah.
he saw that in me and he was like, this needs to come out. Like you need to believe in yourself. You have to push through this
Yeah.
experience. And that was really evident when my hair fell out for the second time, like officially in 2018. All my hair kind of fell out again, and we decided to shave the last of it off. And that was a huge nudge from him to say, okay, this time you're not 15. This time you have me. You have a different support in your life, and you have the ability to share this story. There is so much power in that, in kind of taking that control back and saying, hey, this is happening to me, but I'm choosing to decide to remove the last little patches and not just like let it happen to me. I'm going to proactively take this look back and I'm going to own it. And
Yeah,
that, you know, I wish that I had that just authentically in me at the time, but I don't think I did. I still had some fear and I still had some doubt in myself. And he showed me that. He gave me the support to really step in to that confidence in a new way.
that's beautiful. And do you use that as well in the work that you do now? Because it is a delicate balance, I think, giving people the space and the time and the support they need to get there in their own time. But
Mhm.
like you said earlier, to nudge them a little, to poke them a little, to invite them a little.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's exactly that. I think it's an invitation, and
yeah,
that is the balance that I focus on when I'm working with anyone that's going through this is creating a space where they feel like they can step in. I'm not as by nature, I'm just not a pushy person necessarily, but I think my role is to create a space where people feel like when they're ready, if they're ready, they can embrace a different layer of themselves. And you don't leave your past self behind. You always take her with you. You always, you bring all these layers of yourself that you're continually building on and adding onto your life. You take all of that with you. And so I still think of myself, I still think of the 15-year-old girl who's gone through it and who's very emotional and sensitive and careful about her words and her experience. I still have that side of me, but I also have the highest version of myself cheering us on. Like I think of it like that, like
yeah,
all these different iterations of yourself. And so I try to emulate that for anyone that I'm working with or encouraging to step into their confidence or to try going without a wig for the first time or wherever they're at. It's exactly that. It's just an invitation to say, hey, this exists, and you might be really, really happy with this next version of yourself if you're ready to meet her. And when you are, you will.
yeah. I think that's beautiful. And you embody that completely, I feel like.
I
And
hope so. I
yeah,
better if that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. I
yeah,
can't I can't help but I don't know. I just think authenticity is super, super important, especially in this online space where I live. Like I'm posting, I'm sharing my experience with the world. It wouldn't be me if it wasn't like real and authentic. I would never preach that without having like lived it, you know?
yeah, but that's very visible. That makes it also really touching, I think, what you do. And also, I think that that resonates with kids as well, because you do a
Hmm.
lot of work with children, right? What I've seen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The kids
How,
are amazing.
yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about that, what you do exactly, and how that came to be, maybe?
Yeah, absolutely. I started working with kids, I don't know, as honestly as long as I can remember. I've always loved kids. I've always just been connected to them because I feel like their curiosity, their again, authenticity, like
Yeah.
they're just real and that they're just floating through the world, like enjoying life and finding beauty in all of the small things. And as
Yeah.
grown-ups and adults, we kind of lose that a little bit along the way because
Mm.
life is crazy and it gets busy. But kids are so connected to that. And I've always been inspired by that. I started really working with kids when my good friend Christy created this organization called Baltourage, and she started putting on these fashion shows. And she said, "Hey, do you want to do makeup and kind of teach them about how to, celebrate their bald heads through doing some body paint?" And I was like, "Absolutely, yes." So we started doing these Zoom classes in 2020. She started them, and then I started popping on to the classes to kind of teach them about, hey, this is how if you want to draw on eyebrows, like here's how I would do that. And I started using my expertise as a makeup artist to encourage them and just teach them that makeup is not a corrector. It's not something that fixes anything in us, but this is expression. This is art. This is playtime. Like we are purely having fun and getting creative for ourselves. And that's what this is for. And that was my experience when I lost my hair. Is I started saying, I lost my eyelashes. Can I glue these on? Like, wait, can I play with my, visual identity and add pink eyeshadow or a big winged eyeliner? And so I started kind of teaching myself through that. And makeup became a huge conduit of healing for me over the years. And so sharing that with the kids was really special. And yeah, so I started helping Christy, and then I started kind of just doing these pop-ups on my own. And I said, well, there's a lot of people around the world. My husband and I also run a creative agency together, Renegade Media. So we would travel the world for our work projects all the time, and I would always do pop-up makeup classes or makeup lessons. And the first one that I did was actually in Dublin, Ireland, and I just put it out there on a Facebook group, and I said, hey, if anyone else has alopecia, I do. I'm in Dublin. I live in the US. Does anyone want to meet up and we can get creative together? I'll bring all my tools and I'll host a free workshop for everyone. And so I did that. And we had like 25 families from around the whole country of Ireland show up, and we did creative makeup together. And one of the young girls, like I bonded with everyone there, but one of the young girls and I really connected. And she was wearing a hat. She was very, very shy, very nervous. Like I could feel it in her. Like she just was really wanting to connect. And she was right on that edge of like stepping into her confidence, but I could see she wasn't sure. And so when she sat in my chair and she like drew me this picture it's actually on the wall behind me,
Oh,
framed.
great.
But
Yeah.
anyways, her name was Alyssa. She was so, so sweet, and we really connected. And when she sat in my chair, she seemed really nervous. And I just opened the door to her. I said, okay, you want a frog and you want a mushroom on your face. We're going to paint it. Do you want to leave the hat on or do you want to take it off? And she said, I'm not sure yet. And I was like, okay, that's totally fine. It's completely up to you. There's no pressure at all. But if you want to take it off, you can. Just know that this is a safe space for you to do that if you want to. And she
Mhm.
said, okay, yeah, I'm not sure yet. And I was like, okay, we left it at that. And I kind of started painting. I started getting my paints ready. And she looked over at her mom, and I could see she was like weighing the decision. And all of a sudden, she just took her hat off and like gave it to her mom. And she was like, I'm ready. And she made that decision all on her own, and so that's why I'm like my only role is to create a space where they know that that's an option and they know that they can do that on their own if they choose to. It's not up to me, it's not up to the pressure of anyone else. This is your call. And if you want to, you can take it off and it's okay. You can look just like me. Like I look like you.
Yeah.
And yeah, in those moments, like I never had anything like that. I never had anyone that looked like me or that told me it's okay to be bold. Like to be, I said bold, but bald. Um, Both, obviously. But, how would I have evolved had I had someone
Mm.
encourage me like that and not say these words of sympathy and look at me like, oh, I'm so sorry. And that's
Yeah.
all I got growing up. I got like the sympathy and the
Yeah.
um like
Or-
the pity looks and all of that, and it all came from a good place. I believe that people mean well. I'm never offended by anyone that doesn't understand that. Like I take it all with a very big grain of salt because I do believe that like people usually have good intentions, right? But that's all I experienced growing up is this like pity and sympathy. And had someone said, you look awesome. This is the coolest thing ever. You rock
Yeah.
that girl. Like we're twins. We look alike. How cool is this? Let's paint
Yeah.
it. Let's paint your face. It's a different way of approaching alopecia. And so I spent all these years working on myself and like trying to heal and trying to love myself. Like it's as simple as that. Really love myself deeply from the inside out. And like then I feel like it's become my responsibility then to share that with people who have not yet gotten there. And that's it. It really is that simple. So that's how I work with kids now is I do these pop-ups. I meet kids when their mom reaches out and says, "Hey, I live here. Like, could you come here?" I go there and I put in the time and I teach them about creative art and creative makeup and the power that it has to lift our spirits and to celebrate alopecia rather than, being sad about it.
Or trying to fit into the mold by using makeup, like you said in the way beginning. I thought that was also beautiful. And just
Yeah.
everything you said, I'm like, oh, I would love
Yeah.
to have someone like you as well when I grew up, or when it happened
Mm,
to me. So I think that's so incredible. Representation
mm.
is so important.
Thank you. Yeah, it is so important. And I definitely, I don't know, I think that makeup, how people see makeup nowadays, it's a huge industry. Um, it's a huge priority in content. You see makeup artists, you learn the kids these days know how to contour and shade and do their lashes at age 10. Like it's crazy. But when I was growing up, that wasn't a thing. And I was learning as I went. I ended up going to makeup school to train professionally. But even in that training, makeup was kind of taught to me as this thing to perfect and to enhance and perfect. Like, oh, well, if your lips are thin, here's how you overline them to make them look big, and that's good and that's right. And I think I got into creative makeup and kind of created my own style because I always kind of rebelled against that. I was always like, well, why are there these rules? Why can't I
Yeah.
do eyeliner that wraps around my head? Or why can't I paint myself into a whole character? And when I shifted my career from working on other people to exclusively working on myself, all of that changed because I had all the creative freedom and I had all of the choices. I could just create whatever I wanted, and that is the good side, I think, the powerful side of social media that really changed my whole trajectory and my whole career.
Can I ask you, how did that happen? Was that just something you played around with, or was it that someone talked about that, or was it an invitation, or can you,
Yeah.
how did your head become your canvas?
Yeah, it's so funny because I do think it was a slow evolution. I always loved working on myself. I had so much fun doing creative looks on me because when I was working on a client, that usually wasn't an option, right? Like if
Yeah,
I'm doing bridal makeup, they don't want a huge,
probably not.
it's a very specific look, and your job is to do the look that they want.
Mm,
And that was fun. I did that for a long time. I made my living by doing that. So I did weddings, I did editorial, I would work at fashion weeks and do a lot of runway. I worked at New York Fashion Week.
yeah.
And then when we moved to LA, that was part of my job. I was driving all over Los Angeles working on clients like rich moms that were okay spending $500 a day to get their makeup done. Like I was doing that. And so it was always for clients. It was always for other people. And I found that, those looks were fun and I learned a ton about, hygiene and sanitation and professionalism and running my own business, but I was limited in my creativity. And so in 2019, I think I created my first TikTok and I showed me working on a client and I got all these questions. It was like, what is that? What is that shimmer? What's that eyeshadow that you're using? And so the next video I said, oh, well, this eyeshadow is this one. This is my favorite one. And I started talking and then people said, wait, you're bald. Like, why are you bald? And they kind of like gave me this feedback and it became more about like, well, what is this experience? Hang on, you're a makeup artist, but like, why do you don't have any hair? And so I got that feedback online, and of course, this is after I shared that I lost my hair, and that is an ongoing thing. Like I've spoken about alopecia 1,000 times. I was live on YouTube literally yesterday, and someone was like, "Why is she bald?" Like people still
Yeah.
don't
No.
no. And, you can shout it from the rooftops, and there's however many billion people on the planet. Like, people still don't understand or know about this. It's still relatively unknown. And so, that reminded me of the importance of sharing more about it. And I found that in having myself as the canvas, I had all of the control. And if you've lost your hair to alopecia or if you're going through it, you know that like control becomes a thing in our life. It just does because you lose control without your consent, without your saying that you want this to happen. It just happens to us. And so I found a lot of control in being able to do the looks that I wanted to do on myself. And
Yeah.
that time in front of the mirror for me happened in 2019, so right before the pandemic. And then 2020 came, and I was no longer able to drive to any of my clients. I couldn't work up close on someone's face. So that whole industry shifted very quickly. And it suddenly became clear to me that, the only option I really had was to work on myself from the comfort of my home. And so I kind of went all in on that. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna do this. I had always loved drawing the looks on myself and kind of painting them in and doing fun transitions with songs. And I always loved that, but I never had the full bandwidth and the time to do it because I was driving across to see a client, or cleaning my kit and washing brushes to go to the next client. And so 2020 kind of forced me into this new lane, and it was the best thing that could have ever happened to me, even though it was a challenging transition because my my personality, I've grown a lot in my confidence now, but my personality was always more comfortable behind the scenes. I wanted to make other people feel beautiful. I didn't want to be the star of the show. Like that was uncomfortable for me. And talking to camera was strange. And, you know, my husband is that. He was formerly like a TV host. So he loves being on camera. That's his comfort zone. It's easy for him. And
Yeah.
it was hard for me, especially like just being confident in that role. It was like I had to see myself. I had to get used to my voice and hearing it. And I'm sure with podcasting, like getting into that and the evolution into that space is a transition, and it takes just practice and time. And so that's what it was for me. But when I started doing these creative looks, I kind of never looked back because I felt so empowered as a character. And I was like, whoa, this is like an alter ego. I'm like changing skins. Like, this is so cool and so creative that it filled my cup. It just made me so happy. And I learned that, hey, I can work with some of my favorite brands out there, and they will support my work and pay me to do these looks. And we get to collaborate creatively. And it opened up a whole different world for me. So I'm forever grateful. As hard as 2020 was for everyone, it truly changed my life. Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds like a perfect intersection section for you as well. Building your own confidence, finding your way with the alopecia, going to the front, the center of attention, um, being creative, which is obviously a big motivator for you, is something you probably really need in your life,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
educating people about alopecia and getting it
Exactly.
more out there, being more visible that way.
100%. Everyone was always asking, like, oh, and I'm sure if you're bald, you get this a lot, but like, oh, are you going through chemo? Oh, are you like all these questions of other things that it could be? And my answer was always to educate and say, this is alopecia. This is actually happening to so many women around the world. And
Right.
you just might not see it because sometimes people wear wigs, or sometimes their hair grows back, or and so I took the time to kind of talk about it more and say like, hey, this happens right now, my eyelashes are falling out, or hey, they just started growing back in. And I started just being open about it and sharing the goods and the bads of that entire experience.
I think that's incredible. I really do. And I think it's such a fun, playful, great creative way to do it. There's many people, myself including, trying to educate people, talking about the psychology of it because that's a big overlooked part, at least
Yeah,
in Europe, I feel like. And I talked to Christy as well and some other people in the US. They agree, you get sent home after all the tests with, yeah, it's alopecia. Good luck. We don't really know, how fast it's going to go, what we can do about it.
yeah,
So it's good to talk about it. And I think, everyone should keep doing that very much. But I feel like the way you're doing it is such a fun, different visual way of doing it. And I think it speaks to kids, it speaks to the playfulness around it, the possibility, not trying to fit into that perfect picture of what a woman should look like, all that crap. So I feel like,
100%.
yeah, I feel that's such an empowering thing that you do.
Oh, thank you. It means so much to me to hear that. And that is definitely the goal and the mission with it, is that kids find something interesting and they see something as creative first, and then they ask the question, well, why is she bald? But there's a certain level of admiration, I think, that comes with art. And I think that really helped me build a different relationship with my alopecia, because before I just saw it as so negative and so scary and so such an issue, like such a thing that
Yeah.
I didn't really want, and I wanted it to go away.
Yeah.
And then when it grew into my whole purpose and
Kind
it
of.
grew into my canvas, that flipped, that did a 180. And I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
if I had hair, there's no way I could paint these spider webs when I'm turning myself into Spider-Man. I couldn't bring those spider webs up onto my head. Like this is what I have to be looking
Yeah.
like. Like this is really me. And this was supposed to happen to me all along, maybe, you know? And that like I think through that artistry, yeah, I healed in a different way that um I don't think I was able to before. I think I just kind of like struggled through it. But finding the creative artistry allowed me to like truly celebrate it in a way that was unique to me.
Yeah. And you put it to work in a good way. Like it
Yeah.
works for you now in every sense.
Totally. Yeah. I know. That's
That's
wild. It's
great.
it's crazy to see how it has evolved. Like if I could go back and tell the 15-year-old version of myself that this becomes your entire path and you get to speak about it, you get to talk on podcasts with other people that are going through this. You get to work with the brands that you look up to and admire. Like they support your journey with alopecia. They celebrate it with you. And
Yeah.
you get to really like embrace this side of being an artist that really didn't bloom until my hair fell out again.
Yeah.
I never would have believed that at 15.
No, probably would have been a bit scared about it as well. I
Oh
can
yeah, yeah,
imagine.
definitely.
So
Yeah,
different is dope,
yeah,
is what you keep saying, and which I think is an incredible way to put it as well. How was that born? Can you tell a little bit about that if you have the
yeah.
time?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, different is dope was kind of birthed from a mantra that I told myself. I was kind of saying it to myself first. And I was saying that because there are certain scenarios and certain circumstances where I struggled with my confidence. And for some reason, the outdoors was always that for me. And I think it's because I grew up in rural Montana, which is a tiny, well, it's a big state in the United States, but with very few people. And everyone looks pretty much the same. There's not a lot of diversity. There's not a lot of uniqueness in that state. It's very one-dimensional, I would say. And I love being from there, but I always kind of felt like I had to fit in. Like I wasn't able to really celebrate being unique and my unique look in that state. And when I left, I moved to Los Angeles. My husband and I moved there. We lived in Denver, Colorado. We've moved all over together. And in other places, I felt more able to celebrate my uniqueness. And I was like, hey, I can have bold fingernails. I can wear crazy colorful clothes because that's what makes me feel confident. And I can rock my big hoop earrings and I can like celebrate what makes me me. And in certain places, I didn't feel that. And Montana was one of those places. And so when I would go back to Montana to see my family and to see people that I knew, I would kind of say like different is dope. Like remember that. Don't lose who you really are to
Yeah.
try and blend in. And I would kind of say it to myself, it's different is dope. And the being in the outdoors, like I grew up in Montana where there's hiking and biking and kayaking and fishing and all this outdoor recreation. That's a big part of the activities there. And in the outdoors, I grew up, I had long braids, I had pigtails. So when I would go biking, I would wear my helmet and I looked cute. And I looked how I saw other women in the outdoors showing up. It was a look, it was a very specific look. Well, putting on a bike helmet with a bald head looks very different. And I would always have these insecurities kind of pop up when I was in the outdoors. And my husband is very outdoorsy. He bikes, he hikes, and he does all of these incredible adventure activities out in nature. And I struggled with that. I always like struggled with my confidence more in the outdoors. And we do this event every year in Vail, Colorado for work called the GoPro Mountain Games. It's a huge project of ours every year. And at the GoPro Mountain Games, I said, different is dope. I was mumbling it, under my breath to myself, trying to feel confident while also trying to feel a part of this outdoor community that we work in. And so I was saying it to myself, and on the fly, I decided to paint my head into a GoPro camera because I was like, we're here at the games. This is early on in work with them, but I painted my head into a camera and I went around and I told people to press the on button, and it was so fun. We did this whole creative video around it, and it kind of got picked up by the local TV, and Outside TV, which is like a broadcast company, pulled me on stage during the live show, and they handed me a mic and they were like, "Who are you? What do you do? Why are you have a GoPro on your head?" And I kind of said on camera, I kind of just became confident. And I was like, yeah, my name's Abby and I have alopecia, and I use artistry as a way to spread awareness about alopecia and to honestly inspire women to feel more comfortable about looking different, because I really believe that different is dope. And they were like, wow, different is dope. Yeah. And it was the first time I had said it out loud and shared it. And to hear the feedback was crazy, because they were like, different is dope. That's so awesome. That's like, that means like being different is cool, and being different is like unique. And this is like something very cool to celebrate.
Yeah.
And that was like it was the first time I had shared it out loud. And it reminded me in that moment, like, oh, people need to like hear this. I think I've just been saying it to myself, but I want other people to know that different is dope, because it is. And that doesn't just go for alopecia. If you're missing a limb, or if you have vitiligo, or if you just feel different in any way, you're allowed to celebrate that. You don't have to let it be a difference that you hide. It can be awesome and cool, and whatever word you want to attach to it. Dope was just mine, because I would always like, I loved, I don't know, expressing myself in that way. And it's just something I said, oh, that's dope. That's like a dope song or a dope look. And that's how I phrased it. But different is dope just kind of stuck, and it has become my mantra that I still tell myself in those moments where I need to remember who I am and how to step into my confidence. And it has been something that a lot of other people really resonate with and understand that looking different is awesome, and it's something to celebrate, not something to hide.
Absolutely. And the alliteration is awesome. It's dope,
Huh.
I have to say.
Yay.
That's great. I'm happy that you decided to share it with the world instead of using it as your own mantra.
Me
Because
too.
I feel like many women can use a mantra like that. So I'm curious, maybe as a final question, I have a ton more questions, as you know, prepared.
Yeah. Yeah.
We could do this for 2 more hours,
I
but
know we could talk forever.
but I have one more question because I know there's many people, and especially women listening to this podcast as well, that are not there yet. They are experiencing this. Many of my listeners are actually 50 years and older.
Mm,
So they get the type of alopecia that happens around menopause. They've had this whole life. Maybe hair was their unique feature as well, and then it starts to fall away or change.
mhm.
And it makes them feel, self-conscious, obviously. They feel like I've been through a lot of other stuff in my life. Why is this having such a big impact on me?
Yeah.
Just wondering if there's anything you would like, you could tell them, because many of them feel shame that it hits them that hard, that
Mm,
that it really puts such a dent in their self-esteem, in the way they see each other or see
yeah.
themselves. I mean,
Mhm.
anything that you can, you know, give them as an advice or an inspiration, or just use different as dope, even if you're 50 plus, age is not important in this, obviously. So I'm curious.
Yes. So many thoughts. I have so many thoughts here, and I'll try not to go off, but I get really excited with questions like these and with like final things to take, because I just want everyone to really know, and I want it to really, really sink in when I say this. You are in control. Like, you are in control. Of course, remember that different is dope. That applies if you're 5 years old. That applies if you're 95 years old. You can use that mantra. Please take it. Please take it and use it and say it to yourself in the way that it has helped me over the years. That's number one. Number two is that, yeah, you are in control. Please try and reframe that shame and the challenge that is alopecia. It's forever. There are still times where I feel like I don't want to be stared at. And so I wear a hat, or I cover my head for a moment, and that's okay. there's no one path for any of this. But I think the most important thing to leave people with is that you're in control of how you handle this. And that's not to put pressure on anyone, but it is to kind of give you that push that my husband gave me and say that if you want to change that feeling of shame, you can do that. And you have the power within you to do that. But it can only come from you, knowing that you're beautiful no matter what. You are courageous for even living through this experience because it's really hard, it's really challenging, and it will push you to new layers and levels of yourself that you didn't really ask for, but here we are, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, I really want people to know that you're in control. You can use things like art and expression and creative makeup. For me, that's what it was. You can use these tools to celebrate yourself. And I really believe that it's our own responsibility to find that love for ourselves and really build a strong relationship with it. And I think that especially for, women who are maybe more mature, who have lived more life, you know yourself so concretely in these ways. And so going through this later in life is a whole different experience that I haven't experienced yet. I'm 34 right now. I'm in that stage of life. But what I can say is that we can always change that, right? We can always learn to love these new versions of ourself. And I think that if people give themselves that chance, they will be so surprised and hopefully positively surprised at how much you can learn to love this new experience of yourself. Whether that is one bald patch that never grows back and is just a part of you, maybe you decorate it and maybe you paint it a color one day. I implore you to celebrate it a little bit, even if it's for yourself. You don't have to broadcast it to the world, but for yourself, like find some love for this experience because that process for me has changed my entire life and it has brought me closer to myself over the years. It has allowed me to like really, really build deep love. If my career went away, if my all my relationships went away, it doesn't matter because I have this deep, deep love and respect for myself. And that has taken years to build, and it has been built and crumbled and built and crumbled, and it has rebuilt many times. Um, and especially for women, we have so much pressure on us to be and to look and to act a certain way and to be composed and to hold it all together. And I want to leave women with knowing that it's messy. This journey of self-evolution and rediscovery and true self-love is messy. It is not linear. It's messy. And it is going to look different for every single person out there, but it's important. And I think for me, I'm very aware of my mortality too. I think I have an understanding that like life is so short and I really don't want to spend my time here on this earth worrying about my hair. I just don't. I just want to celebrate the things in my life that I love, and alopecia has become one of those things because it's a part of our experience. This is like something that happens to a fraction of humans on the planet. And I think it can be something that really unites us and brings us together, and something that we can say, hey, this is what makes me different. And that's really cool. That's really awesome. This is dope. This is an experience that not everyone gets to have. And it's a window into learning more about empathy and connection and like true self love. And a lot of people wait their whole lives to learn that. And through alopecia, like I learned that at a much younger age because of this experience. Like, what a gift.
People don't see me, but I'm like, yes, yes, yes. I resonate with everything that you say. I see it in completely the same way. When you lose your hair, it's the top layer that goes away,
Yeah.
not by choice, but that's the facts. And you can,
Yeah.
yeah, it's wonderful if you're able to see that as an invitation to dig deeper and you don't fit the mold anymore anyway. So, what else is in there that you can let out and explore? And yeah,
And that is true freedom. Like I really believe, like
100%.
the way that I have let go of caring what other people think has been such a beautiful experience for me. And I will say, like having hair, I look back at old pictures, I look back at old, work projects I was on, and I was terrified to be seen. And through my experience losing my hair, like I have just shed all of that. Like it left with my hair. I was like, you know what? I don't need to worry about that. I know who I am. I know what I stand for. I know who I love. I know what I believe in, what I, don't believe in. And all of these things make me who I am, not my visual appearance, right? And so then it becomes open to just celebrating it through art and through makeup. Like all of that is just decoration. But it sounds so cheesy, but it truly is like what's on the inside that counts. And if you know that about yourself, you become concrete in those values. Like you can stare yourself in the mirror and be like, yeah, I know you. I know who
You're
we
good.
are. You're
Yeah,
good. Everything else is extra. And yeah, like I said, a lot of people just never get to learn that lesson. And alopecia in my opinion, has been a gift to teach me that.
same. An accelerator.
Yeah, an accelerator,
A
exactly.
gift wrapped in barbed wire, maybe, but
Yeah.
it did the trick.
Yes, like I said, it's messy, right?
Messy, yeah. Thank you
Yeah.
so, so much, Abby. I think
Oh,
it was
thank you so
incredible
much.
that you came on my podcast. All
Of
the
course.
people in Holland with alopecia will, hopefully hear this. Check out your Instagram, check out your YouTube, check out all the cool stuff you guys are doing. I would
Oh,
love to come to the Baltrage one day. Christy and I
yeah,
have a little talk about maybe hosting it in Europe sometime in Amsterdam. That would be amazing.
that would be
So
amazing.
who knows, we might end up in the same room together one day. But for now, I would love to thank you very much.
Oh.
Wish you all the best in your journeys.
Thank you so much for having me. This was such a treat, and it means a lot for me to have these conversations still all these years later. Like it's healing every time we get to talk about it, you know? So thank you
Oh,
for creating this space and for opening it up and being such a resource for women and humans around the world that need this support. So thank you for all you do, and I have a feeling we will definitely meet in person someday.
I would love that.
Me too.
All right. Thank you, Abby.
Thanks, Evelyn.
To all my English speaking listeners, thank you so much for visiting my podcast to listen to this incredible woman, Abby Wren. The next part I'll do in Dutch because it's about my coaching. But before I do that, I'd like you to know that I am bilingual and I am also very capable of coaching and working with non-Dutch speakers. So if you're interested in booking a session or getting to know me, please feel free to email me at Evelien, Evelien, at alopeciacoach.com. Thank you again for listening and hope to see you in the next English podcast. En dan nu voor mijn Nederlandse luisteraars. Wat Abby net vertelde is zo krachtig, hè? Het draait allemaal om controle. En je hebt altijd een keuze en daar ligt jouw regie. En dat is nou precies wat ik je leer in mijn groepstraining Regie op Alopecia. In de show notes, dus het tekstje onder de podcast, staat een link naar dat programma, zodat je kan bekijken of dat iets voor je is en of het bij je resoneert, of het goed voelt voor jou. En wil je eerst wat meer van mij of van dat programma meemaken, dan heb ik iets heel leuks voor je. Want op 21 en 22 mei geef ik de training Regie op Alopecia begint hier. En je kan je daar nu gratis voor inschrijven. En de link daar naartoe zal ik ook even in de show notes zetten. Ik hoop je daar te zien. En ik hoop natuurlijk als altijd dat deze podcast waardevol voor je was. En als dat zo is geweest, zou je dan iets voor me willen doen? Zou je deze podcast even willen beoordelen of een korte reactie willen achterlaten? Zo help je mij om de podcast nog bekender te maken en meer te verspreiden, zodat nog meer vrouwen met alopecia kunnen luisteren en zich minder eenzaam en onzeker hoeven te voelen. Namens hun en ook namens mij alvast heel erg bedankt en tot de volgende.